As Orange County has grown, so has its arts and culture. A ringing example, Pacific Symphony. It turns 40 this fall on many high notes. A national appearance on PBS's Great Performances, a 5-city tour of China, and an invitation to play the big one, Carnegie Hall. So how has the symphony grown from a local orchestra to a cultural ambassador? But also, with so many art groups struggling or even folding these days, what's the future for Pacific Symphony? I'll ask its president, John Forsyte, and its longtime maestro, Carl St. Clair, right now on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by...
Each new community 5 Point brings to life represents a promise delivered. Great neighborhoods are more than just places to live, they are places to connect. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.
Chapman University is a proud sponsor of Inside OC and community programming.
They're great halls. I mean, they're some beautiful spaces.
Yeah.
So we're excited.
Hi, I'm Rick Reiff, and I'm here with Carl St. Clair and John Forsyte. Gentlemen, great to have you on, and congratulations, Pacific Symphony turning 40, and a lot going on. I just mentioned them, but let's run through it again. Give us the big things that are happening now, John.
Well, we're calling it the trifecta. Beginning in April, we will be doing our debut performance at Carnegie Hall. It's a fantastic and terrific invitation from Carnegie Hall to perform.
And I've seen Carl quoted as saying that this is special because you can rent Carnegie Hall, but you're not doing that. You got invited to play Carnegie Hall.
As a Chicagoan like you, it's great to be on the same series with the Chicago Symphony at Carnegie Hall. So yes, we are featured as part of their Philip Glass Festival, which is honoring this great composer's 80th birthday, and a composer with whom Carl has a fantastic and long-standing relationship.
Great, and when is that? What date are you doing?
August 21st.
August 21st. All right. How about
Sorry,
great?
April.
It's April 21st.
April 21st.
Yeah,
April
yes,
21st.
right.
And then great performances.
So on June 29th, we will be featured on a national broadcast of Ellis Island by Peter Boyer. And this was a work that was recorded last year, and it features 7 actors with the oral history project from Ellis Island. So they're telling their personal stories and their experience coming to the
And did you
United
tape
States.
that at Segerstrom Concert Hall?
Exactly.
So maybe some other local folks from Orange County will find themselves on the air if they do any audience pans and things. So
Could be you.
So there could be me. I'm not sure I was at that one, but anyway, okay. And then finally, another big international tour.
So just weeks after we get back from Carnegie, the orchestra is packing its trunks and heading to China as a cultural ambassador for Orange County to China's, nascent but fast developing classical music markets. So we're very excited about that.
Okay, great. And Carl, what does it mean? You have been you and Pacific Symphony are almost synonymous. People hear Pacific Symphony, they think of conductor Carl St. Clair. What does it mean to you and to the orchestra to be doing things like this, to get this kind of recognition?
Well, in 2006, when we went to Germany, we played in Munich and Cologne, and we ended up at a concert house in Vienna. These are moments that really allow an orchestra to discover itself, its own spirit and its own soul away from home, and also to be heard by audiences throughout the world or within the concerts of these incredible cities like Vienna. It allows you to really have an experience with one another that you live off of those moments for years and years and years. And that's been, 2006. So it's time for us to take another tour. And we decided China would be just a wonderful place, especially playing in the concert halls in Beijing and Shanghai and other great concert halls. But these are really defining moments, pivotal moments, which allow an orchestra to continue growing and developing artistically.
Is there some nervousness there? Because I can remember when you guys went to Germany, all the reviews were so glowing. I mean, the Germans loved it. And I got to tell you, I'm thinking, this is a regional orchestra. You guys haven't done this before. Germany, it's a European city. They know all about, music and stuff, and you guys are going and, you might get panned there. Did you have any concerns like that?
Of course, and I think I remember telling our board and the orchestra, like if we got 50-50 positive, negative, or 60-40, 70-30, anything like that over 50-50 would be like incredible. But to have had, I think it was 23 reviews. For our concert in Frankfurt, we had 5 different reviews and not a single negative word. Now that just doesn't happen.
Sure, better than what you get from the Register in the LA Times, hey?
Well, I think we were such a surprise. I mean, nobody had heard of the Pacific Symphony. I had known some of these audiences. I'd performed with other German orchestras in these concert halls. But the Pacific Symphony was an unknown factor, an unknown orchestra. And even one reviewer, I think, said, where is this? Where is this Orange County? What is this orchestra? It's such a surprise.
Now, I'll bet you in China, given that in that interim, we've had the Real Housewives of Orange County and things like that, Pacific Symphony, everyone's going to expect you to come in, sunglasses and board shorts and put on the show.
No, we're serious, diehard musicians who, when we walk on a stage, we're performers. We're deep, deep performers, committed to take the banner of Orange County, of course, throughout the world. But yeah, it's going to be Daphnis and Cloy like you've never heard it. It's going to be Mussorgsky's Pictures at an Exhibition, and Pinchas Zuckerman's going to be playing the 3rd Mozart Violin Concerto, and it's going to be a concert to remember for everyone that gets a chance to hear it. I promise that.
All right.
Both the Carnegie Hall and China concert will be heard here in Orange County. So that's an opportunity for those not traveling with us. And we're actually delighted that several hundred Orange Countyans have signed up
That's
to travel with us
fantastic.
to
So
New York.
and several hundred people have signed up to travel
To New York with us for the Carnegie Hall concert.
And you're saying that kind of as a tune-up for that, you're going to be performing these things locally, so folks can hear it. Okay. Well, this might be a good time to give viewers a taste of Pacific Symphony and some of the things you have done in over the years.
The magic that radiates from Pacific Symphony performances celebrates the human spirit's triumphs and comforts its sorrows. From the superb artistry of our musicians, to the commitment of music director Carl St. Clair, to the music of composers past and present, Pacific Symphony performances curate the creative spirit within all of us. What is not always seen is the enormous impact Pacific Symphony has in making dreams come true for all that we mentor, nourish, and inspire.
My dream is to put a musical instrument into the hands of every young person in Orange County. Would that be something?
Some people call this a concert hall, but for me it's much more than that. It's a tabernacle, it's a sanctuary. This is where human energy meets human energy and embraces one another. All of those things which are inherent in music can help develop, can enrich someone's life. But until it actually touches someone, music's real purpose in life, which is to change lives, to shape someone's present, past, and future, to lift them, to take them out of the doldrum, to give them a moment of solace, a moment of repose in a concert hall. Music for music's sake is not enough. Music has a higher purpose in our existence, and that is to shape lives.
So, Carl, you didn't always have white gray hair. There was a time you had dark hair.
Well, there was only one conductor I didn't recognize. I mean, the only one I did recognize was the last one you saw, conducting Beethoven's Ninth. And there was somebody in the middle there that I don't even remember who that might have been.
So anyway, yeah. So how do you feel? I mean, you have been with the orchestra now for 28 years, and that's
even hearing that is surprising. I mean, it's a real blessing. It has been an incredible chapter in my life to have shared, so many years of great music making, not only with the wonderful musicians of the Pacific Symphony, but with Orange County, and it's been a real gift to me. I'm blessed. I'm very, very blessed. I consider myself the most fortunate conductor I know.
Yeah, John, put it in perspective for us. 28 years. And by the way, I should interject, among the other anniversaries, this year is your 20th anniversary. So you have been here with the Symphony since you were 12 years old. That's right. You have been here a long, long time. But talk about 28 years for a conductor. That doesn't happen very often, does it?
Well, I think that philosophically there was a shift in the way conductors and orchestras related to one another maybe one generation ago, because it was much more common that an orchestra conductor would lead an orchestra for a generation, really building the identity, the sound, and the relationship it has with the community. And I think modeled after Bernstein and many other of the great conductors, Ormandy and Zell, of these great cities, they built from the community these great institutions. And we've been blessed to have the continuity of leadership on the board as well. We have board members who have been on this board for one generation that knew Carl when he joined. And so I think you need new, but you also need that longstanding institutional memory. And but the thing about Carl is he's changed a lot as a person, as an
he's
artist.
Gotten grayer. We've established that, right?
Okay, Rick. Okay.
But the artistry, the deepening of the art. It's an art form that grows with time. And I think the great conductors. I mean, a friend of mine wrote me and said, "Have I heard of Herbert Blumstedt? I just saw him. He's 90 years old, conducting the San Francisco Symphony." Great conductors, like fine wine. Yeah. I mean, they study the scores, they develop even deeper appreciation for what's written by these composers.
So tell us a little about that. With a ball player, you can see them and they start getting older and maybe, they slow down a step, but they, start walking more, or they hit a little better. Mm-hmm. In your case, what happens with a conductor? How have you changed and how has the orchestra changed?
Well, first of all, having internationally kind of broad experiences, being a music director of 2 German opera houses, for instance, conducting abroad, conducting in South America, conducting orchestras throughout America, that has really helped broaden. Recording a ring cycle, I mean, there are so few American conductors who have had that opportunity. So outside experiences have helped me grow inside, and likewise, inside experiences, things that we've done here with the Pacific Symphony, for instance, going to Carnegie Hall with a complete concert of Philip Glass's music, that's something I wouldn't do necessarily, but I do take it other places because of my friendship with Philip and because of the things that we've commissioned. But every time you go back to a score, a 5th Symphony of Beethoven, a 4th Symphony of Tchaikovsky, a Mozart 4th Symphony, every time you go back to it and you have another experience, you grow deeper into it. It becomes a deeper and deeper friend, musical friend, and your knowledge of it begins to be something that you can share more profoundly with the musicians in front of you. So it's like old friends. You just, every time you see them, you're happy that you know them. You grow deeper and more close together.
Right. So when I'm watching you and I'm watching and listening to the symphony, I go, but it always sounds good to me. I don't see where you're making a mistake. I'm not seeing anybody dropping a fly ball.
We don't make mistakes. No, sorry.
So tell me, what's like something, the most embarrassing thing that's happened? Did the baton ever fly out of your hand? Or something, and did anybody notice? I guess, did the audience notice? But what's something that happened that, oh my gosh?
Well, I have thrown my baton. I mean, I've broken a baton. It's flown out of my hand into the audience, but nothing really overly embarrassing necessarily in a concert. More things like that are likely to happen in rehearsals where you say something like, I remember telling a trombone player in German, when my German was very poor, to put a steamboat in his instrument, things like that, and the whole orchestra laughs. And so you used the wrong word. Instead of dämpfer, you said dumpfer, and all of a sudden everybody laughs, and you're wondering, like, what did I just say? But really, things like that primarily happen in rehearsals.
Yeah. So no big.
I guess.
Do you ever have to take somebody aside after a performance, and like a manager taking a ball player aside who maybe didn't have a very good game, and say something to them?
No, I mean, after 28 years, you get to know your musicians well enough that if somebody's having a rough time, there must be a reason. I mean, maybe, because if you look at an orchestra on the stage, you have to realize they're people like everybody else. They have families, they're sick sometimes, they had a car accident, they got a speeding ticket on the way. I mean, they have mortgage payments, car payments, kids in college, whatever. They're like everyone else, and they're human. And that's what makes it exciting in the concert hall. It's because there's human endeavor. That's human energy that you're feeling, as opposed to recorded music.
Okay. John, tell us a little bit about Richard Kaufman, because people who watch who follow the symphony see Richard Kaufman a lot too. He does the pop series, and he's been with the orchestra almost as long as you, Carl. 27 years. You're 28, he's 27. Tell us about Richard.
Well, the music director, Carl, is the head of an artistic team. And so we have an assistant conductor, Roger Kalia, who's been responsible for our youth orchestra and our family concerts. And then, of course, Richard. And Richard has developed really an international reputation as someone who champions great film music. He had a great career as a film conductor at MGM. So we've been blessed to have him. He's really fine collaborator with major headline artists that appear on our pop series. So, the classical series, of course, is the bedrock of what we do. It's 40 concerts. Pop series is 7 pairs. We just had Christopher Cross with us. We're having Pink Martini in a couple of weeks. So, it's more of an entertainment offering, and Richard has, I think, tapped into, with his very dry wit and his fine programming sensibility, he's tapped into our community and been very successful, and also leads typically our 4th of July concert. So he has other roles in the summer series as in the pop. So we're very blessed to have him as well.
Okay, and you mentioned some of the things, some of the creative things that the symphony's doing. Carl, you've done in recent years a couple of things I think are interesting, synchronizing the symphony to movies, to silent movies, Dracula and Ben-Hur and others, Metropolis. And also these, what do you call these, semi-staged operas, right, where it's not the full opera, but it's all the music, it's the whole thing, but you kind of cut back on the scenery and the costumes and that kind of thing. Explain, is this a way to make the music more contemporary or to reach a contemporary audience, or what?
One of the great things about the Pacific Symphony is that we love playing all kinds of music, whether it's accompanying a film. By the way, Richard Kaufman is the best at doing that. He is incredibly keen on how to accompany a film with a click track. But the Pacific Symphony, they love playing ballet. We love it when we have a ballet, a Prokofiev, or even a Nutcracker. We love playing summer programs, outside programs, free park concerts that we do in the summertime. They love new music, world premieres. We just gave a world premiere, and they love opera. So one of the kind of variation of their musical life is really inspiring and motivates them, which is not true of every orchestra. But it's just a wonderful attribute to our musicians that they're so facile and versatile. And playing opera, which we are, as a matter of fact, this season we're doing Magic Flute. This is our 7th opera. We've done Bohème, Tosca, all the greats. It's something we really, really enjoy doing.
Well, good. And by the time this airs, you will have already performed the Magic Flute, so viewers don't need to run out. And but there will be others.
Next year, it's Madame Butterfly.
All right, Madame Butterfly. Okay. And speaking of the semi-staged operas, we all know that it has been very hard for opera. The costs keep going up, and so the costs of staging full operas. We lost our opera company here in Orange County a number of years ago. How's it going for orchestras? Is it a struggle? And then maybe you can talk about kind of the unique idea of bringing opera and orchestras together.
Well, I think generally speaking, this is the most exciting time to be leading an orchestral institution. I think there's so much new programming concepts, as you were referring to. Music directors who are open-minded and thinking, forward-thinking, have come up with many ways to engage new audiences. And I think the biggest challenge for orchestras is some of the legacy expenses. I mean, I believe very fundamentally that musicians should have good pensions, but it's been very challenging to manage the defined benefit pensions that many of the major orchestras have. So when you see some of the more difficult situations, it's often not that they're playing to empty houses. I'm not saying the audience issue isn't real. I think we're in a much more competitive environment and much more distracted environment. But I think at the same time, really the issue for orchestras long term is how to deal with some of those long legacy expenses, at the same time building philanthropy. And I think most audiences don't realize that we're rehearsing 4 times without any revenue, and we're playing all of these free events. There is a huge philanthropic component to running a symphony orchestra.
It's funny, I thought this was the one show that I've done recently where pensions would not be one of the topic of discussions, and you brought that up as one of the expenses. But let's talk a little bit about the economics of running, and just very generally. Sure. Where does the money come from and where does it go?
Sure. Well, income-wise, about 30 to 35% is ticket revenue.
All right.
Somewhere between 5 and 10% are contracted services. So as Carl was referring to, we'll play a week or 2 weeks of Nutcracker. The Segerstrom Center is hiring the Pacific Symphony for that.
Okay.
And then the remainder, dominant, over 50%, but oftentimes as much as 60% of it is coming from donations. Most of those donations are individuals.
Okay.
Very little of it is from the corporate community. Some very generous corporate supporters, but by and large it's individuals. And then a small sliver is endowment.
Okay, and how about costs? What are you paying for?
The majority, about 40%, between 35 and 40% in a given year is artistic related. So orchestra, conductors, and guest artists.
Okay.
15 to 20% in the production area. Mm-hmm. So that's renting the hall, paying stage labor. Another 15 to 20% would be marketing expenses.
Okay, how about those folks we see performing, Carl's orchestra members?
Yeah.
An average, a range or something, are they full-time, are they part-time, and how much will they make in a year?
So our orchestra is really in a unique space in terms of its contractual relationship, especially for the amount of budget and activity level. Most orchestras at our budget are weekly salaried orchestras. Because of the nature and the history of our orchestra emerging from Hollywood and more commercial work, the musicians of the Pacific Symphony had more reliance on other work for a very long time. That has shifted. So I'd say many of our musicians are earning, between 50 and maybe 70% of their income from us, I'm guessing. Yeah. They do a lot of daytime teaching, and some still do quite a bit of commercial or other freelance orchestra work. Our model is that we guarantee the musicians of the orchestra an employment offer. So they'll be offered, say, 190 to 200 services a year. A service is a rehearsal or performance. Mm-hmm. So, very rapidly between classics, pop, summer, the symphony in the cities, youth concerts, family concerts, we're nearing that level. But we're also growing in other ways. We're offering them now opportunities to engage the Chinese community. We have a Chinese New Year's event, the Nowruz celebration next year, or the Persian New Year. Yeah. So we're growing gradually to offer them more opportunities, but fundamentally, the mission is to serve the community. So a means to an end is the service of the community. And I'd say an orchestra member in the section probably earns, you know, anywhere from 40 to 50,000. Some are earning 70 to 80,000, depending on where they sit in the orchestra.
Okay. And I think that's going to, just anything else, the Argyros Plaza, that's opened up now. That's more of a pedestrian thing. Are you doing some things there?
Yeah, well, we had a Chinese New Year event just recently.
You have 10 seconds, by the way.
And we activated the plaza, but it's a wonderful new addition to the Segerstrom Center for the
Fantastic.
Arts.
Gentlemen, thank you
Thanks,
so
Rick.
much. And that's it for now. Thanks again to my guests, Carl St. Clair and John Forsyte. You can watch this show and past shows by going to pbsocal.org or rickreiff.com. You can also catch our shows and our post-show open mic chatter on YouTube. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by
Each new community 5 Point brings to life represents a promise delivered. Great neighborhoods are more than just places to live, they are places to connect. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.
All your life, people talk about what's best for you. But to most people, it's just that. Talk. Unless you're with Memorial Care, a healthcare system devoted to one important thing: what's best for you.